All right, guys, part two to this little series I'm doing on why I believe AMC is looking very bullish in the coming weeks for the market. So this one's going to focus on TA specifically. So technical analysis is combined with cycle analysis. And we're going to be talking about some of these macro setups and micro setups and sort of combining these to formulate a projection. So far, everything else has been tracking according to plan. The projection is still on track to reach the first level of resistance right now, which is right around that $10 range. And then anything above that, we could see that $20 range and maybe even further in the coming weeks. So let's go ahead and look at the micro chart first. I'm on the 4-hour. We're going to do this little setup that we have, which is a descending broadening wedge. This is very clear, and we're starting to see that push here to the upside. First crossing resistance at around $7 is going to be that first level to track and cross through. We do have Ethereum Classic going up this weekend, and we have been tracking the same percentages here. So it is calling for more upside. If we start to see a cross at resistance for Ethereum Classic, that's going to be an indicator that we are going to continue to go back up. So this is the first little TA setup that I'm watching for here. And we also have this same setup on the macro chart. So I'm going to be flipping back and forth between these two. This is going to be a macro setup here. So we're going to go on the daily chart. And we have ourselves another descending wedge. Now, this one we can argue is also a parallel channel. We have a parallel channel bouncing walls. If you take this level of resistance from the drop we had in November of 2021 up to this point, you can see that we're just bouncing off of these walls and we're currently at support. You can look at it like this, or you can look at it from the descending broadening wedge, and this one would take into account that that happened in March, that volatility zone that we hit and got rejected was clocked over on the algorithm, and that's why you had a massive rejection here. So it's very clear that both of them are calling for upside and that we are trading on a lower range here. Okay. We also have on the micro chart here, 4-hour, we talk a lot about this parallel channel that we gravitate back into every year, and that is going to be this parallel channel right here. So these are all 120 days apart. So this is more of a TA with a cycle analysis combined together, but we know that this is a zone to track here for hedging purposes. These institutions like to go back into the zone every year and basically do whatever they want right under those zones, outside of those zones. So right now, this is the update that we have. I'm going to pull up the original chart. So here's the original parallel channel with the support zone and the volatility zone. And we can see where we are in the cycle. We're right down here. So far, it's been very close here. We were outside the zone for 120 days. And you can see right here, we're right at that mark. Actually, going into next week is when we should be expecting this push to the upside. Now, if we combine this, and this is why I have like a part series here, and I'm updating it every week. If we combine this setup with what we talked about last week, which was patterns, fractals, indicators, so the spots indicator, very important here. I'm going to update that real quick so you guys can see why this is relevant to the current setup. Here's spots on the daily chart. And we just had ourselves that very first blue spot here. And the sequence right here we talked about, this pattern here is blue, pink, blue, which we had happen back here in January. So same setup, blue, pink, blue. And if we zoom into the chart here, the candles, this that we're experiencing right now is looking extremely similar to what the chart is displaying right now. Okay? We had our blue spots, and then now this sequence of patterns here is probably going to be stretched out and expanded a little bit just because of the price range is a little bit different, but the overall structure is the same. So we have an M pattern coming back down, and then a rally. And same thing back here, a little M pattern, rally, it starts trading sideways. So both of these are important to track. We also have the week chart here, the weekly chart, and that's showing very similar things as well, that we're currently right here, not quite crossed yet. And you can see that prior to this pushback down, we have the same series here on the spots indicator. We have the blue, pink, and then here just hovers right over that pink curve, which is what we did. And then now we're starting to curling back up. Okay. So both weekly chart, daily chart, very powerful tools. And this is looking very good with the technical analysis that we just talked about here. Now you're going to see this wedge actually on the weekly chart. It looks a lot better. This descending broadening wedge, I know a few are going to disagree on other time frames, which is fine. But this right here that happened, you can see it on the weekly chart. This wick was not supposed to be there. So wicks, I'm not a fan of wicks. I just most of the time tend to ignore them and just pay attention to the actual candle. And here we're on the weekly chart, and we can clearly see that without that wick there, this is definitely a descending wedge. Okay, so that's what we got, man. This is clearly at a level of support and calling for more upside. If we reach that level here on this wedge, we would see that $20 range on this volatility zone that we're getting very close to. So volatility zone and cycle, this is going to be that part 3 video. And then the fifth one is going to talk, or the fourth one is going to talk a little bit about that reverse split and when we can expect this news to, because once the news comes out, man, this catalyst comes out, that's going to give us that deadline. It's going to give us that mark and tell us when we can expect things to happen. You know, if they have their reverse split in May or July or wherever, that is where we're going to have ourselves like a time ticking bomb here on when we can expect that rally to happen next. So stay tuned for that next video. It's a cycle POI video, cycle rotation, liquidity transfer, stuff like that. That will be on that next video. This one's just specifically talking about TA and cycle analysis. All right. All right, guys. Bye-bye.